Good morning, everybody. So, as introduced, my name's Dave Genny, and I manage NatureScot's Protected Areas Monitoring and Surveillance team. We deliver a Protected Areas Monitoring programme that covers all of Scotland's sites of special scientific interest and internationally protected areas. And that's from the geological features of Arthur's Seat all the way out to the internationally important seabird populations on St Kilda. So this programme, it tracks our progress and helps ensure that these areas are well managed and, most importantly, effective. Now, Scotland's protected areas have a vital role to play in delivering our 2030 and 2045 biodiversity goals with really ambitious targets. So we're going to see these protected areas expand and become better connected and healthier. But to ensure that our monitoring is efficient, informs land and sea management and policy, and makes best use of existing and, really importantly, new data, we've got to reform our whole approach to monitoring protected areas. And we're only going to be able to meet the challenges ahead, though, through investment in innovation. And this is innovation that delivers a modern system that allows us to adapt, that is flexible, that supports complex planning and resourcing tasks. We need to know where to invest our efforts and when. That provides intelligent insights into the value of the information we collect so we can continually improve and become more effective, and enables us to provide high-integrity reports and at multiple scales, not just within individual protected areas. Now, it's been a really great experience working with Informed Solutions, and they've had this amazing ability to understand a really complex situation, and through their expertise, I think, going through this process, we've also gained a great deal of clarity on our wider monitoring reform. And I'll say that, through this process, we've really been given a glimpse of the art of the possible that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So I'd like to hand you over now to David, who's going to talk you through their solution. Thank you.
Hi. Thanks to Dave for that fantastic introduction, and thank you all for being here today. My name's David Lawton. I'm a technical director with Informed Solutions, and for the past 30 years, we've been using tech for good, making the world a safer, smarter, healthier, and greener place. For this challenge, we've partnered with NatureScot, and we're applying our expertise in data science and geospatial technology to help protect and safeguard some of Scotland's most important and sensitive environmental areas. As you've heard from Dave, Scottish Government is taking a world-leading response to the climate emergency. NatureScot plays a critical role in this. They're responsible for preventing damage to and mismanagement of thousands of protected areas that are key for reasons of carbon capture, sustainability, biodiversity, and endangered species. This takes a massive amount of effort from NatureScot. Their teams of deep experts undertake detailed surveys across thousands of protected areas spanning millions of hectares of Scotland's land and sea. But the challenge is growing. By 2030, the volume of protected areas will need to increase by 66% to meet those government targets. And it's simply not possible to efficiently and effectively monitor that increased amount of land and sea with the existing resources and approaches. That's where our solution comes in. We are developing a first-of-kind environmental asset management platform. It takes advantage of the latest data science and geospatial techniques to revolutionize environmental monitoring and management. Our platform incorporates three key capabilities. Firstly, we can unify and make sense of an ever-growing set of data. That includes satellite and Earth observation imagery, citizen surveys and crowdsourced information, and unlocking the values of hundreds of thousands of historical records about these places using natural language processing. Secondly, we can use AI and analysis on top of this platform. We can train ML models to characterize and predict site condition based on the latest changes sourced from Earth observation data. Critically, the platform can underpin collaboration with stakeholders across Scotland. That includes partner organisations in Scottish Government, the owners and occupiers that live and work in these areas, as well as community groups, citizen scientists, and academia. Now, whenever we apply innovation, we always want to do so in a user-centred approach. So we've got some personas to bring this story to life. It all starts with Bob. He's got overall responsibility for the management of protected areas. He needs to understand which areas are most at risk so that he can work with regional teams to focus efforts where they're going to make the biggest difference. Our solution unifies a wide range of different spatial data sets, providing Bob with a simple whole-of-Scotland view as to the most important areas to look at, bearing in mind the current condition of sites, when there were last surveys, as well as identifying potential threats and changes from Earth observation data. Bob then speaks to Sue. Sue's responsible for assigning her team to survey and collect data in her region. She needs to make optimal use of new data sources where they arrive and take advantage of new data to determine site's condition. Our solution helps Sue focus her team on the areas that are most important. It helps her understand where new data can reduce the need for extensive site visits and help plan surveys by area as efficiently as possible. The whole team need to work collectively on this endeavour. Sue and Bob work together with their teams of experts, gathering the data that's needed, visiting sites, undertaking surveys, and sourcing data from other partner organisations. Our solution provides the whole team with a real-time view of progress, shown on a map so that they can track activity, identify gaps, and respond to changes in the annual life cycle. Lisa works in Sue's team. She needs to analyse all of this data, assessing the condition of the site and identifying the best course of action to improve things. Our solution can provide Lisa with instant access to all of the data about a particular site. It can combine information extracted from historical documents using AI and natural language processing techniques with the latest satellite imagery to build a 360-degree view of place. We can also use intelligent scoring models to help assess all of this data in a standard and robust way. Most importantly, it provides her with the data that she needs to work collaboratively with the site's owners and occupiers, putting in place targeted and informed responses. The potential for our solution is massive and on a worldwide scale. The global pledge to safeguard 30% of countries' land and sea by 2030 has been signed up to by over 100 countries. It's estimated that in excess of $177 billion will be required over the next 7 years to achieve these remediation goals. All of this investment needs targeting, and that's where our solution comes in. We conservatively estimate that the market value of this opportunity is in excess of £10 million, and we're currently in discussion with agencies in Australia, Indonesia, and Malaysia about our platform. Informed solutions are perfectly positioned to respond to this challenge. We've got a 30-year pedigree of managing complex data to support decision support in the environmental domain, and we've won 2 Queen's Awards for innovation. We've got key relationships with a number of the key Scottish Government agencies in this space. Thank you very much for your time. We're interested in hearing from Scottish governments that have a stake in delivering these climate targets, and actually we're recruiting in Scotland, so we'd be really, really interested to speak to people, digital professionals, especially delivery and product managers, as we grow our team here in Scotland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David, for a great pitch there. And it's as you go through that solution, it's clear just how much we need to have better data as a core part of responding to this biodiversity crisis. So great to see some of the progress you've made there. Can I open the floor for questions? Does anybody have any questions? I've got one over here.
Can you hear me? Yes. Karen Chambers. Could I ask David Genny whether having more accurate data will actually help protect triple SIs, SPAs and so on? Will the data incorporate threats to them, and will the information be in the public domain?
Yeah, you've actually touched on a key point there, which is part of the core of the reform of our approach to protected areas monitoring. At the moment, we've got a very feature-centred focus to our monitoring within protected areas. And we can monitor the number of species and monitor decline of those species. We already know that nature is in decline. And we're trying to transition much more to an approach which is focusing on pressures and threats, the things that we need to know about to change our management. And the other thing that we need to do is not just focus within our protected areas, and this links to future challenges on nature networks, but we need to think about these landscape scale pressures that are impacting on these protected areas. So hopefully that answers your question, is that the core of our approach is to move. But we need the systems to enable us to do that, and that's what this challenge is going to deliver for us.
Thank you, David. Right, do we have any other questions? What's going on? I do have a couple of questions. So maybe while the audience takes some time to think up some more, what other organisations do you think could benefit from this solution beyond NatureScot? You mentioned some of the international leads that you're pursuing there, but what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I think events like this are fantastic in bringing together the right sort of community to respond to these sorts of challenges. So we'd be really interested in talking to SEPA, Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, Marine Scotland, Scottish Forestry, who we know are all very close partners of NatureScot and have a key stake in delivering the response to the climate change emergency. Also interested in speaking to local planning authorities. And on the international side of things, we've got quite a lot of interest from public sector, federal government in Australia. We're also speaking to private sector, some fairly large private sector conglomerates over in Malaysia who have particular interest in smart farming.
Great, that's fascinating. Another question at the front here.
Yeah, Barbara, as part of the first question, there was a question about how much of this information is going to be publicly available. Do you want to say a bit about your plans for that as well?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, that is another key part of our approach, is that, so this is a system to manage our data. Some of that data is going to be generated by us through our monitoring program, but an awful lot of it is going to be generated by other people and coming from other sources. So this system is going to be developed in a way that we are able both to ingest the third-party data sources, but likewise a core principle will be that any of our data is available for other systems to use. And actually I see future phases of this. I think this is the first phase that is going to enable us to manage everything, but the next phase it will very much focus on thinking about how that information needs, who needs what information, which of course will be part of this first phase, but really looking at that outward facing data sharing side of things.
Absolutely.
And one last quick one.
Yeah. Quick question. What was the biggest challenge you faced while developing this solution?
Sorry, I didn't quite get
What was the biggest challenge you faced while developing this solution?
That's an interesting one. There's a lot that's in flight at the moment. I think it is an incredibly dynamic area. You know, you've got policy driving new responses. You've got things like the transition to understanding ecosystem health rather than feature-based monitoring. You've got a lot of legacy data, which is really valuable, but locked away and not structured. And then you've got, week on week, month on month, wholly new data sets sourced from new sensors, satellites, Earth observation, LiDAR, but also better ways of processing that. So we sort of really needed to understand that it is very much a moving, dynamic area that we need to work in. And that means that when we start to look at the architecture and the configuration of some of these solutions, we've got to build that in. We've got to have flexibility in terms of dealing with different data sets. We've got to have flexibility in terms of understanding the entities involved in those data sets so that we can start to make intelligent joins. So I think it's it's understanding and going into this, sort of embracing that sort of dynamism of the domain that's been both a challenge but also really exciting.
Super, thank you. Right, well, that is actually all we've got time for. So David and David, thank you very much.
Thanks.